Hello, Dream Team, and a very warm welcome to this week's episode of The Good, The Bad, and The Rugby in partnership with City Index, the leading provider of spread betting, CFD, and FX trading. Tins is on his bike I hope he's on his bike this week, because the first post he's done from his marathon pedal, he's actually broken his wheels.
Has he?
Pulled it apart, getting it out of the car, I think.
Shut
He's unicycling up the Pyrenees.
Are you serious? He's nervous. Yeah. It's all jokes
aside. He
aside.
wasn't very well at the weekend.
No, we did a little live event and he sneezed and things might have happened. And I think he's fully underestimated how hard this challenge is going to be. Like, he knows, but I think now he's got there. And he said he was at the airport and it was like blistering heat, like horrific.
I can't imagine he's very good in the heat.
No, well, because
big and hot.
He's a big man, absolutely no barnet, so the sun's reaching straight through to that skull.
Yeah.
There's no escape. He's obviously got the nose that's now straightened, because before it was just the tip of it would get.
He's not breathing well in the heat.
He's not breathing well in the heat. He's imagine like a bulldog locked in a car, right, with the windows down,
with the windows
up.
up.
Well, no, with the windows up. Sorry,
not enough.
Like a British bulldog. Okay, this is the scene. British bulldog in a British car park with the windows up. He's been in there for 5 minutes and the breed is... he can't think, can't speak, and now he's got to ride up a bike on essentially a saddle that they call the steriliser, which honestly will split his gooch and his testes to one side. And then what he's going to do is he's going to finish that day one and go, fuck, that was awful. Then remember, he's got 6 more days of hell, all raising money for Cure Parkinson's. So please have a look on my Insta stories and Tins is to invest. Because you know what? This could be the last thing he ever does. You could be paying for some funeral expenses for Mike Tyndall in with Cure Parkinson's.
3,000 miles a day at a 1 in 10 gradient. Go get him, my kid.
It's fucked.
No Tins, which is a shame because we've got a massive weekend of rugby to dissect, and Hask is here.
That is
that's
worrying.
an oxymoron.
How many games did you watch? Well, let's not define it. Let's not box ourselves in with a particular number. Let's just say that some of it was watched by, like, as a distance. Like, I was in antenatal classes on Saturday. 4 hours.
By the power of osmosis, you took in 1 or 2 results.
Okay, well, let me show you how the scene was. I had it on the radio in the car, got to the house. My wife put me under strict instructions. We had antenatal, 4 hours on the Saturday, 5 hours on the Sunday, right? And I basically put it on Sky Sports, Sky Go app, and I was literally coming back to it and forward to it while it was in the kitchen, and that's how I saw the game. So there's absolutely no detail to anything I've got to say, but there never is.
Looking forward to your insight, therefore. Because you haven't watched enough of it, I'm very glad, therefore, to say that we are joined by a Saracens and England legend, now entrepreneur.
Prestige.
Wide.
Boats
and homes.
That was the wonderful quote from George W. Bush, wasn't
Possibly you.
Who, despite being told that he's welcome back in England camp anytime, has jacked it in to go global with his business. He won the Premiership 4 times, Europe 3 times. He's a British and Irish lion, 45 England caps under his belt, and possibly the most flambé goal kicker in the game right now.
Heard it is.
3... Was it 3 backheels or just 1?
No, it was 1 backheel, but there were 3 conversions in there.
Just getting that in there, just making sure
possibly
everybody
lending
knows.
the most curious scorecard of all time, therefore. What was Barbar's 45, Kruis conversions 3?
Yeah, it was a bit of an odd week, really. A bit of an odd day, though. You don't expect that as a Barbar's.
Was it? Surely you must have been practicing.
I wouldn't know, mate. You're looking at me as if you wouldn't expect the bus. No, I never got called. I couldn't. Every time I got called up for it, Wasp wouldn't release me, and then I was too old and decrepit to do it, unfortunately.
George Kruis, welcome, first of all.
Thank you.
It's very nice to have you with us. We've got a lot to talk about. Business, rugby, bits and bobs in between. But with the Barbars, had you practiced your goal kicking in the week? I mean, were you told if we get up, we'll have a crack? Or do you just say, I'm having this in the moment?
We did a thing with Flats. I think he was basically suggesting that it's a tradition that people kick goals, and I actually thought that was a tradition. So then, I guess we started hammering out the goals. But there was. I had 1 shot and it went left, and then I think basically had to throw the ball over the post to pretend.
I mean, it really is a refined sport, rugby, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you ever? Because Mako's quite a good goal kicker, isn't he?
Mate,
did you back in the day at
go.
Saracens? Did you ever sort of plant the tee and say, 2 minutes to go, this to winner?
Yeah, you run through those ridiculous scenarios. I think I've won a few World Cups in those scenarios. Lost a lot more. But yeah, I think he's actually good. Like the last the 5 if you're drawing a game and it comes down.
He's actually in the list.
I reckon you'd put him tail end of that. Yeah.
Wow.
To tell you who would put his
so
tail end
lazy
now,
to do it as well.
It's Tom Wood.
Really?
Did you see Tom
yes,
Wood's
against Spain.
conversion against Spain?
Yeah.
From the touchline.
Yeah.
And bear in mind, most of his body is like MDF wood, like with absolute no flexibility. I know I'm not one to talk, but it's like rigid MDF legs that have got no extension. He just hoofed this ball over, curled it in, as if absolutely it wasn't anybody's fucking business.
It was a wonderfully sort of 1970s goal. You know, when you had to kick, like, well, you wouldn't remember, but like when the ball weighed 2.5 stone and you had to really, like, both feet off the ground at connection point. It was sort of a bit like that.
Yeah, it was incredible. I want to know about you, Snoozes, because obviously I never had the Barbarians week, and I know we're going to come on to so much rugby in your career. But actually, what was it like? Because there was a very French tint, and I saw a clip when you got sort of announced as captain, and Galtier sort of talking, and it was like you sort of waiting to know what was actually being said. It was like it said something in French, and you're looking around, and then someone goes, "George, it's you," and you're like, "Oh yeah, just thanks so much to the French Barbarians." Was it that loose? Did you have any idea what you were doing?
Not a Scooby. Like, he was like, right, first meeting, he was like, look, George, we're going to speak in English, make this really, really useful for you. Nah, it's like you got a bang on the head and completely forgot it. He literally didn't speak a lick of English.
And how many English people were in the team?
We had a couple of people who like Chris Tollifier, who could like translate, and obviously was at Saracens as well. Will Skelton, a couple of Irelanders as well. Like there was enough to understand, and GCSE
like a French
exchange gets you.
You weren't like the French exchange student that goes, you go to bed with a family and they don't speak a word of English. I actually did that when I was probably 11 or 12, and I was so unhappy. I went to bed at 4:00 in the afternoon. I couldn't say anything to anybody. I just wonder whether that was like your Barbarians experience or whether there were one or two.
No, it was
to talk to.
It was just 4 a.m. to be honest. It was.
Right.
Yeah.
Did they stitch you up though? Did like the French?
I thought there would be a bit of a stitch up, but they fully embraced it. Like they loved it. I think they used that as like a one of those like memory making trips, kind of create a bit of culture, a bit of vibe, and for him to have that, it's worked pretty well. Everything's paid for, everything's sort of sorted out. A couple of different experiences.
How was Sean Edwards? Was he speaking French? I know, because I haven't heard it, but I can imagine it.
I imagine it's quite hammer and anvil. In its sort of,
so it's like he's got like, I don't know, 30 words, and they just on repeat, but it's highly effective. Yeah, it's like exactly that. It's like parce que, très bon, and everything's like a double repeat. But he's also unbelievable. Yeah, and they like properly listen to him, and like. Yeah, he gets the job done. So
he's some fucking amazing coaching. But I can imagine. I wonder because I've seen him speak French in an interview where he sort of has a northern French accent. But you're right. I can imagine placage.
Mate, it's all
avant, à gauche.
Yeah.
Où est le ballon?
Yeah. A lot of ballon. Sur le ballon. And it just be repeated. But hey, effective.
But you had fun though, because I did sort of wonder whether. Obviously, because it was amazing because of how good the players were. But I did sort of wonder whether one of the things about the Barbarians week is when you hear from people, it's kind of built on the chat and the camaraderie. And I certainly know my time at Stade Francais, everyone's having a laugh, and I'm like, we. And you don't know what the fuck's going on. But it was all right for you, was it?
It was brilliant. You're right. When I first saw the list, and then I first saw our training schedule, and it had 4 gym sessions. It had like 3 training sessions. One was against French under 20s, one was against Ealing, and I was thinking this is more gym than I'd ever done in a normal week, like let alone a barbars week. But essentially, we got there and he just ripped the manual up, and I think the French S&C coach was like, "This is a different type of week. This is like his week." And then it's just everything went out the window. We had. We didn't have breakfast till Friday. We had 2 45-minute training sessions, which were extremely French. Jouet, but like you get to like 30 minutes, they're like, oh, this is crap. Let's just turn it on, and then they just absolutely dusted the French under 20s, and then same again with Isha, like just very, very relaxed. And then suddenly it's like someone was just like, I'll do something now, and then it just.
Really?
So French, yeah.
What were the nights out like? Was it quite... Because obviously there was a famous thing during the COVID thing that everyone ruined it because they went out, didn't they?
That was Golden Boy.
They're still doing... they're still doing community service for that. Honestly, mate.
Do the crime, do the towing.
A lot of those lads were Saracens lads, and they...
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're still...
when you ruined rugby, what have you done? ruined rugby,
Yeah.
ruined everyone's day. But but you did have a couple of nights out. What does that involve?
Yeah.
Any drinking games? Because I know the French, they're great on the field, but also because they've sort of got that Latin sort of spirit. The smash doesn't start for them until a good 12 at night.
Yeah,
Just as you're going, probably a bit tired now, go to bed. They're just into their second
sort of continental flavour.
He's had 8 hours in bed in France.
Yeah, you have,
Yeah, absolutely.
You were crying when you
I've
wet
been
in the bed
very
again.
I then get up, you see. I get up at the right time, 2 a.m.
No, but when you went on your French exchange thing, you went to bed at 4
was very
crying,
unhappy.
missing Mater and Pater, and then in your little
And
school
Teddy.
uniform.
Yeah, all right. We're not here to talk about my French exchange days. Did you talk to... I was interested. Did Eddie say, get me some intel while you're in there?
No,
No?
that I wouldn't say that's his style.
No.
But yeah, just
What did you make of the game itself, actually? Was it quite weird? I saw you belting out the
Yeah.
national anthem, but
It
was a funny
was-
old game.
yeah, it was weird. It was just weird playing against a lot of players that and then obviously the national anthem, all that sort of bits. But I just took it for what it was, which is a Barbars game.
Yeah.
I went out there to just try and have as much fun as possible.
Yeah.
It should be lighthearted. It should be a good advertisement for the game.
Did you kind of find it a bit weird playing against the guys in terms of did anyone give you any shit? Like tread on you at the bottom of the right, fuck off Cruiser, stop kicking the ball over the post.
I heard someone shout "run at Cruiser" as loud as they could. I'm pretty sure it was Charlie Ewells, but yeah, and he ran at me and absolutely bounced me. So.
Really?
No, not Ewells, Curry.
Oh,
And then
really?
I also got bounced by Jack Knowles, which was lovely.
Right.
Right.
But he's actually a powerful fucker.
He's a powerful man,
Oh my
yeah.
God, yeah. But yeah, it was good. Yeah, but it's the sort of game you can just have a laugh about it.
Did you get a bit of heat as well? Because to be honest, I didn't see the game. Shock. But I saw the kicks, and then I saw Eddie or someone talk about you being disrespectful by the kick. Did you get a bit of heat from that on social media? Was it bullshit?
I did this like Jersey thing the other day, and they surprise attacked me with a list of mean tweets, and it was all people just saying, "Oh, it's disrespectful," but really nah, not heaps. Just
funny enough,
just Clive Woodward.
What did he? What the fuck did Clive Woodward say now?
I knew that would trigger him.
What did he say? What did he say?
I'm so angry about
No,
it.
Clive, have a Kit Kat, take a break, G. It's not 2005. You're not involved anymore. And do you know what the best thing about Clive is? I love you, Clive. Incredible legacy. You're not going to get the job over Eddie in terms of that director of rugby role that you're so desperate. He keeps suggesting every article. It's I tell you what Eddie really needs is he's got to stop this autonomy that he's had. He needs someone in between him and the senior management. Clive, what does that person look like? Don't tell me. Does his name rhyme with Schmive Schmudwood?
Rob Andrew.
Yeah, well. Would you like to replace Rob Andrew? That's what he wants. And he's so desperate to have it. But take a break, Clive. What did he say?
He just said it was disrespectful.
Bore off, Clive. Not even funny. Not even original.
Yeah.
My kid loved it.
What
Is
Clive
that-
Woodward said?
No, my 9-year-old son isn't reading Clive Woodward.
Oh, right.
He enjoyed the conversion.
what
He
someone
actually also, like I said, this is Streaker and the Mexican Wave were the two best bits of the.
Do you know what someone
the off-season.
surprised me the other day? You know, someone surprised him with some mean tweets. Someone surprised me the other day with some nice tweets. It was that
That's a
big.
shorter show than
That's
his.
not even short. It was actually 3 things, and 2 of them from my wife.
Is that it? So, are your boots now in the potting shed?
Yeah.
You are no.
Yeah, I think so.
And how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, pretty good.
Oh,
You know, I'm relaxed. Like I said, I've done what I've wanted to do in rugby. I'm pretty I could do another couple of years. I do obviously all the bits about rugby, which are brilliant. But then the other bits where you're giving up your weekends, you're giving up. There's heaps of sacrifice, and I'm not saying that's I'm not whinging about it, but it's just the right time for me to do something different.
Would you do you want to play at all? Would you do sort of grassroots
look, I
trot
don't know.
around at centre or
No, I'm definitely not doing any of that. Like Dom, my co-founder with a business, he's
Who's
playing.
he playing for?
He was playing for an Irish team, and he broke his cheekbone the other day. So I was just thinking, there's not a hope in hell I'm doing
Right.
this.
I would highly recommend you do not do that.
Yeah.
Because someone will fall on your leg,
Yeah.
and what you'll discover is that you don't have any insurance. You have to pay for it yourself.
Yeah,
It's not worth it. Well, can I play
This nose cannot get any bigger as
What I
well.
was
I
gonna
don't
say-
want to get any. Yeah.
You've hung your boots up, but you've escaped that beak. Genuinely, the size of that beak, it should look like Tins's. How has that not got broken off?
Because there's feel it. Feel
wow.
it. There's nothing in it.
Oh God! It's been smoked to bits.
No, it's just a balloon.
Right, like bulbous.
Yeah, bulbous. There's nothing really to it.
Do you know what they call it? A carbuncle when you've got a big bulbus. Now, if you Google what a carbuncle is, that's what one
Like
is.
Gerard Depardieu.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big carbuncle nose.
And are you therefore you happy with your lot? By the
With
sound
my
of it?
lot?
Yeah, as in with the career and
Yeah.
job
Yeah,
done.
I know where I started. So to finish from where I started, it was pretty good. Yeah, to play for England, to get. I think some of those like Heineken Cup trophies and those sort of things, they're pretty gold dust. They are very special, along with like the mates you've been trying to work for it for forever. So I'm really happy. And then to go out to Japan, pick up another couple of trophies there, which was like just something completely wild.
How was Japan as an experience as a whole?
Just like the only way I can think of describing it is different. It is like a different world. It's something which is obviously the culture, everything, but the food's different. You go to a supermarket and you just walk around, and I'm just in my head laughing because there's just so much which is just. You just think this is bizarre.
Totally.
It's when you see the kind of the fish counter or the bits, and it's like. They've caught everything in between the top of the sea and the bottom of the sea, and then they've taken a digger and dug everything out the bottom in the sea, and there's stuff that I didn't know existed.
Yeah,
like objects that would not be out of place on the X-Files in a BAP. You're like, what is that? Like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
And they're eating it live, boiled up. You go to a 7-Eleven. There's like you go to.
I'm sure they don't call it a BAP. Tokyo.
You have to be very careful because you make a joke, you're instantly Jim Davidson in a band. But like,
don't do that.
When you go to a service station here, the best thing you see at a BP is one of them rollover things that only truckers with the iron constitution would eat. No one's ever eaten one of them. At
like
7-Eleven,
full of mercury or something.
7-Eleven, you've got pork buns, you've got shit bubbling away. Like something from the witches bubbling away in pots. Like every now and then an eye will just float to the surface, and you see a Japanese salaryman come in steaming, ladle some of this gear into a bowl and shuffle off. You're like, who's ordering?
Fall asleep in a bush.
Yeah, upside down in a bin. Who's eating this stuff?
Yeah, but it tastes unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean,
it all tastes unbelievable.
I mean, this rig's not powered on service station food, but I imagine someone like yourself with similar chas would be eating at 7-Eleven pork buns.
It's good. It is good. It's good. It's good gear.
It's good gear. Get it in you.
And you weren't tempted to do another year?
I was just because I think with Japan, like you get 5 months, or on the contract I had, you get 5 months off, so I could do bits like business. I could just about sort of take that sort of sacrifice of not seeing, your friends and family, all that sort of stuff. But I was considering it. But I spent a good couple of months really thinking through my options, and then decided to put the boots up.
I tell you what we'll do. Let's have a quick. Do you now you've retired? Are you done with it all, or did you watch Saturday's action?
I did watch the game on Saturday. Yeah.
And is that because? And will you continue to do that, or is that just because you've literally just retired?
I think probably because there was a few boys like Billy and stuff. Yeah. I'm obviously so pumped for him to be back in the mixer. I just wanted to see him kind of see how he went on really.
Let's do a little bit on Saturday, and then we'll come back to your career and what's next, because it's really, really interesting. It's particularly interesting for us, I think, because we have championed, and you have repeatedly said, players who don't look out for what's coming next are making a huge mistake. I don't think any of us have ever said, become so successful that you quit your career in your prime type thing. But we'll come back to that. What did you make? Did you speak to Billy pre-game, post-game? Did you ping him a message or two?
No, I didn't actually. No. Or post-game. I don't really like him that much.
Right, okay.
No,
he wouldn't reply.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
what did you make of...
in the dustbin.
What did you make of it? Welcome to the dark side of media and judging and feedback and all that kind of thing. Was it a tough watch as someone who knows the setup as well as you do?
I thought it was a tough watch. I do think I thought they'd lose the first one, and then I think they'll win the next two. I think probably just need a bit more time to gel together. But yeah, like clearly they had an opportunity especially with the sin bin or the red card. Like there's an opportunity missed there.
Not going straight into the media then, George.
No, this is one thing I'll actively avoid, but. I don't know. What do you think of it?
Excellent.
I only ask questions. You have watched enough of it.
Yes.
He watched the Twitter highlights.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. That's how I get through my career. Look, I think it's a tough one because at the moment where I felt with this England side previously, especially around the 2019 and sort of post it to a certain degree, they could finish off difficult games, and you never felt like they were going to become unstuck. I think post the Six Nations, you and I talked about it pre-show, the Scotland moment, we'd had an opportunity. If Luke County hadn't had that moment, we've all had them, made that mistake, it would have been a different game. They had a red card, they didn't capitalise. And I think that would be what will frustrate Eddie more than anything, because they will talk about scenarios, they will talk about going up a gear, talking about when you have incidents in the game that stop the game and pause the game, which are turning points. It's the side that has the most reactivity, the most energy, the most clarity, the most execution overall will be able to do that. And I think this, in the moment, this England side, at times when you think they need to seal a game, will miss a kick, will compound errors, and they don't necessarily have that ruthlessness. And I don't know what the answer is at the moment. I think actually, when people say about score lines, it flattered. It's flattered them. Fucking at the end of the day, it's the score line. It doesn't matter how they got there. It might have flattered them, but the end of the game is they lost by, was it how many? 2 points. Yeah. So the point is that there's a way to do it, but I don't think they need to be in that position. I think that if they can execute, if they can play, and not compound these errors, they need to find this ruthless edge that will make a difference. But I think one highlight of it is, again, go to South Africa, go to Australia and find someone Arundel.
Yeah,
and fight and see what he can do in the first 5 minutes. That and what a positive moment for that kid.
I mean, it sort of transformed.
That's a ridiculous start.
It sort of transformed the entire game.
Yeah.
Because suddenly, from what was an unbelievably disappointing result, everyone's now, Jesus Christ, we found something. I mean, really very, very special. Who was the last player that made you think, wow, like that?
You got
a young
player.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly that Freddie Stewart looks pretty good, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Like, he looks legit.
But you don't get many players.
No,
who...
Marcus Smith. I remember
Marcus Smith.
Marcus Smith is one. I think, but someone like Arundel is interesting because again, for someone who has not a great attention span for rugby, I remember going in to do some stuff with the England under 21s. I mean, they haven't won a game since I came in, but previous to that,
Thanks for the help.
Oh, you're welcome. And they were basically. I was looking and doing some research on the 21s team just to see what was going on, see what the message.
I think it's under 20s. But
under 20s, sorry.
Let's
not nitpick. It was under 21s in my day.
Yeah, they are all under 21 because they're also under 20.
Yeah, they are, so exactly. You're welcome.
Yeah.
And so
Brilliant.
Just keep saying you're welcome and that covers it up. Wait, tested you, you've passed the test. You can move on to the next level of broadcasting. Wanted to set you up.
Right.
But I looked at on the highlights and there was this kid and I remember seeing him play against Wales and Ireland. And like one of them, he chipped the ball, volleyed it round, scored, boom, footwork was incredible. And I went in going, who the hell is that? And they said, it's Arundel. So where is he? He goes, well, London Irish didn't pick him at all. Then he went away to under 20s, carved up, and they were like, actually, we can have him back now. Suddenly they'd seen him, didn't realise the talent. And because he then got those opportunities in the first team, kicked on, obviously had that unbelievable moment in the European Cup, which was that end-to-end, end-to-end next level try. And then when you get the confidence to come on, and I do wonder though, they always talk about second season syndrome, is you look at him, you think, he's a young kid, and you see him run into those two Australian, Kellaway and the other guy, and you think they've sort of gone, we'll deal with him, gone a bit half-hearted, and he's absolutely destroyed and run off. Yeah. I don't know how many chances you get when you have that. I remember when I first tackled Sam Simmons, and I thought, he's small, I'll deal with him, and he ran so hard. I tackled him, but he's knocked me back. And I was like, wow, and you sort of then learn about it. So I think he's got so much potential to kick on. But what's so good about him is the footwork, the unbelievable turn of pace, the fact that he can kick out of hand with great handling skills. He looks like the real deal without hyping up too much and putting too much pressure on him. But to get a cameo like that and to turn what was, a disappointment for England, it wasn't the end of the world. I mean, I didn't lose sleep over it. I didn't go, God damn, Eddie Jones must go. I went, okay, never mind. Didn't really capitalise. Boys were disappointed. Be shit going to Australia and having probably a good preparation, not getting it. But at least we got a positive from him. Do you want to talk us through how and why Owen missed that goal, given that you...
I think he didn't look down long enough, I'll pick it up with him. But
do you speak to Owen a bit? Is he happy? Is he all right?
I'll speak to him enough, yeah. But like, again, he's a bit of an island, isn't he? Like he'll happily wear that. And then you look at how well he played in, say, the Prem semi-final and things like that. He's an unbelievable player. So I think a lot of it, I think, is around like the law changes, more of an attacking game. They've got to kind of change the team, and therefore they've got to have time for that to gel. I think it's more like the game we used to play was very much defensive. It was very much set piece. It was very much suited the players that were in the team. So now it has been pushed a little bit more attacking. Like, you're going to have to change your game plan, and that involves, if you change your game plan, that involves changing players, and that involves taking a bit more time. So I think that's where the media are a bit frustrated, and they're clearly not going to give it time to sink in.
Why do you think they'll win the next two tests? What did you see?
I just thought that they'd just get a bit of a kick and get on with it. I think yeah, I like the look of the squad. I like the look of the players. Yeah, I think they just needed a bit of a kick and a bit more time to gel. Like you from a Prem final, you've got you're pretty much there the next day, and you've got a week maybe together, and then you get, you know, if you can get a game, get another two weeks training, then yeah, I'm excited for.
Bear in mind, half that team has never played for England together.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're going to tweak some players who were tested, but again, I think it's a nice, experiential kind of experience to play that first test away, Cauldron off Australia, like you said, you know, tweak a few bits. But you know, Billy hadn't played, Danny hadn't played in that England side.
I do think the English team is a better team than the Australian team. So that's where my confidence comes from in terms of, I think it will be 2-1, but it just needs a bit more. It's like a bit more time together.
I agree.
Did you see Mara get told off for screaming and shouting?
I didn't.
Did you not? So I think it was the first line out, and you could hear him.
Yeah.
Almost from back here, and the referee said, "Any more of that, and you get a yellow card." I mean, he was at his very, very most noisy. I would go so far as to say. Yeah. Having trained alongside him for a decade, does that still ring in the ears, or did you manage to block that out?
Yeah, I put little earmuffs in whenever training, but now but there's exactly what you're saying in terms of you'll have a player, and then either a ref or other players will sort of figure out what they're up to, what they're doing, and they'll come up with different systems. But I think with him is he does look to constantly evolve. Like, you know, he plays the laws very well a lot of the times. He'll learn different tricks, little bits, in terms of how you can stick to the laws. And I think with him, he's always going to be picked, isn't he? He's a top player.
I think as well. Credit to Australia. You know, to sometimes. I know
you get those games, don't you? The 14 men often.
But we saw it with England. Was it England versus Ireland?
Yeah.
You know, that was probably the best 30 minutes the guys have played since the World Cup final, where they all gel together, and it can galvanise. I think when, you know, again, people chastised Eddie because he said, "Oh, look, I think the referee tried to level it out." I didn't see enough of it to know, but it is. You know, when you make a brave decision in a Test match to bin someone like that, you know, surely, you know, it's human nature to start going, well, fuck me, I've given a red card to them. You know, that's a pretty big moment. I need to make sure that I'm on the money and not allow anything else to slide. So even subconsciously, it may or may not happen. So I don't think they intentionally do it, but I think subconsciously it might happen. And obviously, losing that moment, you're going to get round and go, fuck me, lads, we have to work for each other here. And it can give you an extra gear, and it can either be the undoing of you, it can be the motivator. And credit to Australia, you know, Michael Hooper was unbelievable as always. Karevi, you know, those players as well. Yeah. They've got a young dynamic team in a position of transition. You know, they lost Quade Cooper. I think it'll be a big moment for them as well. But as George said, come to the second test. Let's see what happens. But I think I think the narrative about changing and firing everything, it's like I don't think it's going to happen. But if it does, I think it's going to be 10 times worse for this team. Yeah.
Let's keep the powder dry, obviously, until the series is decided. And it's certainly the way England were talking off the bat. They were extremely pumped. I thought Jack Van Portfleet, actually, for a young kid who's played 2 minutes, scored a try, came off and said, gutted with the result, really pleased about the debut, we've got to win 2-1. I thought was a really a strong statement. Have you got any interest in coaching at all?
No.
None.
I think if you do coaching,
because you were a student of the game.
Yeah. I like learning. I like that side of it. I just think if you do coaching, you got to do it well. Otherwise your life's just a mess. Like you're going to be pulled apart. You got no uncertainty. So, and to do it well, you got to put in unbelievable hours. Like you've got to be good. I think the sacrifice is not just at the weekends, it's then into like evenings watching tape, all that sort of stuff, especially in maybe like a space where I'd look to go and coach, like in that sort of bit more noisy sort of, you got to know what's going on type thing. I just think if you do it, you got to do it well, and I just
And is it something that as soon as you've gone from the game, you've always said, Haas, that the sport moves so quickly that once you're out, you're properly out. It's not something you'd ever come back to because potentially the game will have moved on, or it's something you keep an eye on?
If the business flops and I'm living on a cardboard box, then I might have to head back and get some leg squats in or something. But look, for me, I think I am really motivated by different memories, different chapters, sort of exploring and that side of it. And for me, this is
This
This
is
is a new chapter, yeah.
Yeah.
It's literally as simple as that, I reckon.
I have talked to some guys recently who've transitioned into coaching, and I think there's this, because it's the same question everybody asks. I'm not saying your journalistic integrity is a question.
Get some original
Yeah,
question.
but it is the
falling
question.
apart at the seams having worked with you. Go on.
It is the question that everybody asks, but it's sort of asked with the mindset of like, oh, it's pretty easy. You just go in.
No,
you
that's
tick-
not.
no,
I was
no.
actually asking it more because you had a great sort of relationship with Borthers, didn't you? Weren't you the sort of the protege to Borthers?
Yeah, I'd
It's
say
illegitimate
enough,
son that Borthers wouldn't admit to
Yeah.
having, but
Yeah.
would send a food parcel around.
Daddy.
Daddy. Loves marrow. Not so keen on this one.
Daddy.
But that's why I was sort of interested as to, obviously having worked with him a great deal and seeing what he's doing, whether there was any sort of burning intention in that regard or whether that's gone.
I think that's the answer. Like you don't have to really want to do it, like unbelievably a lot to give it a good enough stab to actually be good at it.
Yeah.
And I think my interests lie elsewhere.
Because that's what I meant about just, it's a horrific job. So that's
Yeah,
what
it
I'm
is.
trying to say, is that it's asked not by you today, but asked by people as something that seems so easy and would be a natural progression. I would say it's got all the worst parts about being a professional sportsman with none of the fun.
Yeah, you don't get to
You don't
jump
get to
on the
play.
field. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't get to play. You got to look at so much footage.
Yeah.
You have to be so prepared. You don't. All the days off the players get, you don't get. You have to be in there first. Have to stay longer. Then have to have difficult conversations. You don't get to play on the field. You can spend all week training a team to do something. You can just do completely fucking opposite on the field. You're the first one they bollock.
Yeah.
That everyone you select loves you. Everyone you don't select hates you.
Yeah.
If you're a support coach, everyone in the squad's always in your team, which is the perfect crime because they always come up going, oh, listen, I know you're not on the team, but I would have picked you. But when they are coach, you go, well, you said when you were backup coach that I was being your team. Yeah, sorry, now we've got to make a decision. Turns out I'm fucking not. That's why every scrum coaches always have 36 players in their 15-man squad because they can say that to everyone. All these support coaching jobs is horrific. The head coach, because it's obviously a male-dominated sport.
Yeah.
Male ego is a real thing. When does everyone turn around and go, I got it wrong? First thing they look at is, fucking hell, George, line out went shit. And then it's always the fitness coaches who get it. Like, well, the boys weren't fit enough.
Right.
Lads weren't fit enough. You're like, what do you mean they weren't fit enough? Do more fitness. And then when we do more fitness, the lads look tired.
Yeah.
It's just...
Overfit.
Overtrained.
Overtrained.
It goes round. I think it's horrific. And do you know what? So many people get into it. And actually, I think that's why a lot of players have issues with mental health because they go into it and it's horrific. They get less time at home.
I'll tell you one thing. Physio. That's got to be even worse. You are in every Sunday picking up people's like elbows and sticking them back on. It's like it's relentless being a physio, and you get nothing. You get no like wraps when you might get a bottle of champagne at the end of the season, and that is it.
Yeah, and now if you get it wrong, you get sued.
Yes,
Now if you get it wrong,
100%.
you're part of a legal case.
Yeah.
Now you go, and also the best bit is that with physios,
Unbelievable.
beginning of the season, they're like, right, you've got medical budget. George, knee, will scan that, elbow scan that. Halfway through the season when they burst through the budget, they're like, probably test that on Monday.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's okay.
Academy kids walking around with broken limbs. And you're like, no, like it all.
Yeah, hop on that.
Have a Strepsil.
Hop on that, bone goes
Bit of
through.
water.
Strap that on, sponge that. It's a nightmare.
It's so funny what you're saying because actually this was the point that Eddie was making last week is he said, show me a coach in the game that's not under pressure. And you look at, Dave Rennie, brilliant, they won, but he lost the previous three. There's a huge amount building on him. Eddie, obviously, we know about. Ian Foster's had a terrible time at the hands of the Kiwi media. Farrell, off the back of suddenly losing by 40, he was quite tetchy in his post-match conference. South Africa were dire in the first half.
Pivac's lived on the edge.
Pivac is properly on
He's
the
set
edge
up
at the
camp
moment.
there,
They
isn't he?
blow a game that they should have won.
Townsend
loses in Argentina and obviously had a pretty tough Six Nations. Chequers obviously only just taken over Argentina. Fabian Galtier is the only man smoking a cigar at the moment.
And he is.
And he
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, he's.
And that can turn. Or
Yeah.
actually, no, they're probably going to be all right for a bit longer.
Yeah, but but the thing is, but if anyone could turn, it depends how catastrophic the balls up is. Because obviously, when you said about the crowd and the Stade de France is back, they are back at the moment and they're singing.
But they turn faster than anyone.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely.
Honestly,
They'll be chucking newspapers
Yeah.
in seconds.
mate,
Yeah.
I've seen a London taxi turn quicker than that. Like, do you know what I mean? They are on it. They are on it, ready to.
It's a tough gig.
Yeah.
Quick word then. All Blacks, brilliant, good enough.
I mean, look, I think this All Black side are very, very good. I think that fool anyone that underestimates their ability. Do they fill you with invincible fear? No, I would say not quite yet. I think they have that. And I think actually with that post the second half start from Ireland, with that intensity, unfortunately, it's almost so sad that you end up scoring because then you reset and go back for the kickoff and you're back in your half and then they suddenly took the momentum. If they could somehow keep the momentum on, I think Ireland would have done something with that. I think they do look beatable at times, but guys like Ardie Savea, Sam Cane back in the mix looking on fire, massive decision to start Bowden Barrett, put Richie Monga, who's been the Form 10 in the Super, whatever the hell the league's called
Super
now.
Rugby Aotearoa.
Yeah, that's the one.
I'm not even sure it is that anymore.
Is it not? It's a Super something, isn't it? But
Super Rugby,
it's just got Super something. And they, to then bring him on, I just thought also to bring the bench on. They do look great, but I don't think they're quite the Richie McCaw, Dan Carter world beaters yet. Yeah. But I think they're in a good position going to World Cup. And I think you have to be at your best. And if you don't, you're going to get absolutely torn apart. And that's what Ireland showed. I don't think Andy Farrell was wrong. And actually, they didn't play badly. They just had those moments, those lapses. And unlike, say, for example, you have a lapse against England, we probably don't have the ability to convert that with the same intensity. Have a lapse against New Zealand, interception, turnover. Ardie Savea is finishing it. Guys on one side, Sevu Reece is scoring tries. That, for me, is the big difference.
Yeah. Do you still believe in Ireland? Or is that, obviously we'll see what happens in the next 2 weekends, but there will be a horrible sort of familiar story beginning, which is that they've peaked mid-World Cup again if they come back 3. Well, actually, it could be 5-0 because they've got 2 games against the Maori as well. So they need something from somewhere, don't they?
Yeah, it's a tough gig, and I'm sure you played down, what was it, 2011 tour?
Yeah. And 14.
You go there, it's some of the places are shitholes. Like, you understand, like, there's not heaps to do around there. There's not. If you can't get that motivation from somewhere, it's pretty hard to just find it.
Yeah.
I think obviously they'll be excited, and there will be a kickback, and it won't be a score like that. But it's
quite a lonely. I think what I mean is it's quite a lonely place. Like because it's such a beautiful place, New Zealand, and such a kind of an incredibly culturally rich place. But in terms of like rugby, it's the only place we go and tour where it is all about rugby.
Yeah, everybody and they let you know big time.
Yeah, and you sort of go to these sort of different locations, and you go to these stadiums, and you have a few travelling fans, but it is very hostile, bit dewy on the ground, and it can be a very long night. And I've been there, 2008, 2 tests or 3 tests, absolutely drilled, 45 points. 2014, I think was the best opportunity we ever had.
Very nearly won the first
Very nearly
test,
won. And if it hadn't been for, if
Manu got caught.
But also every time we went to a try scoring opportunity, Davey Wilson, the prop, was in the way with his one broken arm in his hand. It was like, Davey, get out of the fucking way. But then also the number 10, I can remember what his name is at the time.
It's Aaron Cruden.
Aaron Cruden, every single time would have kicked and said he tapped and went.
Yeah.
And you're like, of all the other teams, no one would have done that if he because he did it, he scored. And Stuart Lancaster took a couple of people off, changed it.
I think Freddie Burns played 10 that day actually.
You might have done
because I think you had. Yeah, I think he did.
But I mean, that was when Chris Robshaw made that break. Roman on who pulled me back from my shirt, but only didn't get a yellow card. Nigel Owens sort of just said, bit of a bad play. You're like, he's hanging on to me, and we're on to score. And and that for me was when I played against All Blacks, and I came off, and I said, that was not an All Black side I'd ever faced before. They didn't have the intensity, they didn't have that kind of thing because that was their first test of the season. Yeah. The first time they were together at Eden Park, it was the only time we were going to beat them. And then I didn't play in the second and third test, and they just ramped up, went up until they absolutely battered us. And that's the difference. You get one chance on tour to do a job on them before they get together, and they're incredible. But what I mean as well is exactly what George says. Sometimes you go there, and if things aren't going well, it is quite isolating because everything's geared towards you not winning. Not in a nefarious way, but it just doesn't work out that way. And you have to sort of become very insular, and you're not looking for any crowd support. You have to dig deep. And I think, luckily, this Ireland team, because they have a legacy of beating them.
Yeah,
I think it actually isn't a problem, and I think they will come back. I think they will come back stronger. But New Zealand will be in their groove again now, pumped up.
Yeah, and like with New Zealand, obviously, they were killing it, kind of pre-World Cup in 2019.
19,
yeah. And they don't have that big pressure they do at the moment because they are on a bit of a transition sort of phase. But it'd be interesting to see in 2023 where they get to. They're building just as much as any other team is.
And you know of any side in the world, just that they're always, the priority is always being better in that shirt, and they talk about it the whole time, and they have such a conveyor belt of players. There'll be players that will be in that 2003 squad that we're only just hearing about now or haven't heard about, and they have such a rich wealth of talent. But when guys like Bowden Parrott, Ardie Sevilla, Sam Kane, Brodie Retallick, Sam Whitelock are still doing a job, and Aaron Smith. I think there was some question marks over selection, because the Highlanders didn't necessarily do particularly well.
Yeah.
But he's still the best fucking 9 in the world. Well, sorry, up there with the best 9 in the world with Dupont. Different players, but equally just unbelievable. And I also think that the fact that they're so proud, and they're good. Was it good men make good All Blacks? So I reckon they're in a good place.
I played with a lad in Japan. He was Lachlan Boshier. He unbelievable, like killing it. I think he was getting like 5-6 turnovers a game, like killing it. And he left Japan because he was sort of like your fifth in line. I was thinking, there's 4 other people who are deemed better than him. I don't know, coaches can pick, depending, or game plan can decide whether you're in or out. But it was a bit scary. That I was thinking, wow,
the talent is ridiculous.
That's a big move.
Can we also have a shout out for? I've never come across a name as good as this. There was a guy actually used to play in South Africa called Cheese Van Tonder.
That's a lovely name.
Which is a great name. But the All Black who made his debut at the weekend is Leicester, Offa, Key, Wales, Twickenham, Fainga, Anuku.
Mega name.
Yeah, good on him.
If
Leicester, Wales, Twickenham as your middle names.
If he didn't play rugby though, that's sort of wasted. You had to be good.
Yeah.
You've got to be on a global scale.
Like I'm trying to think about names for my daughter, and it's like,
you call it King's Own or something.
no. I've just sort of Tesco's, Asda, Lidl, Haskell. You know what I mean?
Amdor.
Quick fit. I haven't run this past my wife, right? And I don't know whether social services will get involved. I will name her for a year for that cash, and I'll also change my name to something for cash.
Well done, Leicester, Offa, Key, Wales, Twickenham, Fainga, Anuku.
That's just good.
Looking forward to him, hopefully, a career that blossoms from here. Hard Luck Ireland go well at the weekend. South Africa 32, Wales 29. Willemse with the last gasp penalty. Bigger, Alan Wynne, Lewis Rees-Sammet and Rhys Carey all sin-binned. Some of them I simply couldn't get a handle on. Why. That is a heartbreaker for Wales, isn't it?
I gutted for them because it was so close.
Did you see that coming? Could you
see him getting anywhere near that?
Yeah. Which is amazing. But who's that? Is that South Africa or is that Wales?
Oh. Again, we'll see with the next testing whether it was a sharpen up for South Africa, where they weren't in their groove. But I'm gutted for South Africa it's gutted for Wales because I think, to get so close and to fall short over just some sort of niggly bits, and also for Dan Bigger as well. I know. Just to get caught, a bloke who, deserves more than that. And it's one of those things where it's heartbreaking, and you get so close yet so far.
Argentina. Did you ever come across Checker? You obviously played for him. Did you do? Yeah. You didn't do much with him.
No.
Checker opens with a win against the Scots.
I thought he was coaching NEC in Japan.
Well, he's now Los Pumas.
Yeah. But he was also, when I interviewed him for the What a Flanker podcast, he was taking on the Lebanon Rugby League side.
Oh yes,
But I think he must have sacked it off because he then got an Argentina gig. Because then I spoke to him, was like, I'm just being a consultant, and now he's fully in the mix. Because when they beat the All Blacks, he was coaching.
The thing is, those coaches just got to sit around and wait until a decent job comes up. What are you going to do in the meantime? And you've got to keep active, haven't you?
Yeah, but he doesn't actually need to coach. That's the weird thing. His his wife run a very successful fashion business, even though you wouldn't know because his fash is almost as bad as mine. But he doesn't really need the work, but he just enjoys it.
Another entrepreneur. Which leads us very nicely on to the life and times of George Kruis. Only one of us said 4 Southern Hemisphere wins. So I'll pat myself on the back for that. I'm certainly not going to get plaudits from you. France 42, Japan, France 42, Japan 23 as well. So Galtier's stock just gets deeper and deeper in terms of talent available. We've touched on your career. So 14 years, 4 Prem titles, 3 European titles, 45 caps, British and Irish Lions Tour, 2 World Cups, Rugby World Cup finalist. Do you look back now and think, for a kid who started at Dorking age 7, that was a good run of it. Yeah, I know. I've got the notes in front of me. It's very helpful. But do you think back and think that is a hell of a run? I achieved more than I wanted to. Do you think bang, that was part of the course? Do you think, wow, there's a couple of other things I'd love to change if I could?
Nah, like overachieved, I'd say.
Really?
Well, yeah. I mean, like people, everyone's got to find their role within the team. Yeah, I wouldn't say I was an outstanding rugby player. I was probably good at finding out what my role was in the team and trying to do that as best as possible.
What was your role?
Well, what was my role?
Great attention to detail on the line outs.
Yeah.
The brunt of a lot of jokes.
Yeah.
Basically, Paul Gustard, I can't say what he said, but basically...
What did he say?
We can't.
Remind me never to ask Haskell another question, would you?
Basically, the way we were to defend not like George, essentially, and then we would be okay.
That's quite harsh, isn't it?
No.
It's more of a joke. So George was always stare at men, and we kind of wanted to be ball watchers,
on the pitch?
not men.
I
just
see.
sort of everywhere, really.
Right.
You know, that was kind of the...
Where are we going with this?
Yeah, I don't know.
We're a show for all shapes and sizes.
Come on, mate.
No, but I think also you were extremely hardworking, extremely knew your role, executed it, attention to detail, were consistently kind of spot on with that line out, created an incredible line out. You basically did the job that nobody else could do, and when carried and defended, you were on fire. I mean, I think every team needs a George Kruis. I would always have a George Kruis, just as long as he doesn't say anything.
Turn that one round. Fair play.
Turn that round. That's what I do.
Is that fair?
I think in good enough teams or good enough cultures, you can recognise where your strengths and your weaknesses are, and I probably bought into that. I think, especially the way we played at Saracens, we played at England for a good chunk. It's like the set piece was everything, defence was everything. That was where it was all built, and then like everything else can be added onto that. And more often than not in big games, that's where a lot of it's won. It's tied to games. Your pressures come under, skills come under pressure, and those sort of things are the ones that you fall back on. So I think my role within that is in line-out stuff is, I fully accepted that. I bought into it. And that's probably where I managed to extend my career or get, stay in a decent enough team.
And he cost me a few fucking... So when you say I'm being harsh, I always knew that if I wasn't going to be in a team, because the 6 was jumping in the fucking line-out, so was the 7. And that him and Bortles had a nose off, and he would have gone, for Kruis' stats purposes, he would have gone with, I'll get the guy that can jump. Even though I could jump, but they just...
What? What?
Yeah, I could.
Well, you couldn't catch it when you were in the air.
There's a two-part thing we need to work on that one.
I had a fondue set instead of set hands.
Did you find the right home for you in Saracens where you could therefore flourish, or did you become a product of Saracens? Did Saracens unlock you, or did Saracens...
I mean, I wasn't at another club, so I guess they coached me into the way that we played.
Yeah.
And I think with Saracens, probably it was like we started like ridiculously simple. We got hammered for years for being a boring club, which we were in terms of set piece, kick, line out, maul, scrum pen, penalties.
Yeah,
like very boring. And I think over time, then obviously you got to evolve and stuff. They found a bit more of an attacking game plan. We're keeping the basics of mauls and D and all that sort of stuff. So I think probably a product, but also they have very good coaches. Like Paul Gustard as a defence coach, unbelievable. Like a properly good coach, along with all the setup that they've got. Al Sanderson, again as a breakdown sort of forwards coach, unbelievable. And it just clicked. I think there was just a good enough group who'd been there long enough, who probably cared long enough or enough to get go with it. 4
Prem titles and 3 European, as we said. You can play one of those games again.
Yeah. Leinster one, I'd say. Like Leinster's always, it's pretty much an Ireland team, right? Yeah. So that Leinster one in 2019.
That's the one that meant the most.
I think so, yeah. Just because we were losing.
Was that Marseille? Where was that? Nice?
Newcastle.
Oh,
Newcastle.
It was the
year
real. Sorry,
a real hub of rugby
in Newcastle. And why? Because it was.
Because we were losing, and I think, we were losing. We had Mako sin bin before half time, and Mako then had to go off because he was injured. And we just turned it on the second half, and it was so enjoyable. And then obviously the memories off field and finding one of your mates who's pooed himself in an alleyway, like these sort of things. You can't really. What did I say? Sorry, you can cut
that needs a bit of detail around it. Not the poo.
You can't name. You can't name. I'm not stabbing.
Forward or back? It's like guess.
Have a guess.
Forward.
100%. Yeah.
Right, so don't name them, but you need to
front
explain.
row, second row, or back row.
What is this?
You need to explain. Where were you? How did you find him? And what state did you find him in? Just paint the picture.
God,
you don't have to go. Don't mention these.
I found outside of McDonald's.
Right, so you were walking,
chicken nuggets on the floor. Picked him up. Like was
passed
fine.
out.
Yeah, he was bent double. He was pretty screwed. And then we were walking back home, arm over shoulder. He then it is a bad story. He then tripped. Fell about. I've never seen someone fall sideways this long for so long. He fell about 5 or 6 meters sideways onto a homeless person who then.
This is amazing. Yeah.
Who then squawked.
Squawked.
Made a noise only like I don't know. Yeah. Yes. Exactly that. Exactly that. And after I picked the man in question, he'd
So as he'd fallen, he'd shat on the home. Okay, let's get this up. Okay,
we put out 3 social media clips a week. We've just got our first.
So paint a picture. You walk past. There's someone bent double on the floor with chicken
nuggets.
You
pick him up. Yeah,
you picked him up and go, listen, I'm not. No man gets left behind.
Yeah.
The Wolf Pack, Saracens, I love you. You've heard of him. Yeah. As you were stumbling, he's tripped, hit a curb, fallen onto a homeless person. He's gone. As he's fallen, he's released his bowel, shat himself. Has he got himself up, and you've realised he shat himself?
No, we had to pick him up, and it was noticeable.
He noticeably shat himself.
No, like you know when you're not, maybe my niece or something, you pick him.
You picked him up over a head and sniffed his ass.
You know immediately what's going on.
So he's fallen, and then what did you say? Oh God, you shit yourself.
No, it was just a game of just trying to ignore it.
Oh, ignore it, and then but did you put him on around?
Did they continue on the night out, or did you?
No. I mean, there's a lot more to this story.
Yeah, so did you get him home?
But
do you shower him down?
There was an episode of that.
Really? Well, so did you get him in for his front? Because you didn't just leave him and go, I can't be bothered with this. You took him home.
But teammates.
Yeah.
Well, you got to look up. You got to look after your friends.
Did you burn the clothes? Did you bin bag the clothes?
I think there was a donation to the hotel.
Right. Oh, is it a hotel? Okay, so it's a hotel.
Yeah.
And then, but were you on your own, or did you manage to wheel him into a bath? Did you spray him down?
There was a few of us. Yeah.
And who physically showered him down? Was he in a state? Was he crying?
Yeah. No, there was.
Was he crying? Was he like passed out?
He wasn't crying. He was just a zombie.
Oh, so he was a zombie, and you're going, oh, X, you've shit yourself. We need to shower you down.
Yeah.
And then you had to, and you pop him in bed.
Yeah, tucked him in.
And then did you go back out and piss?
No, the night was done.
I was just trying to think of the 5 Saracens pillars of humility, and whatever they are. Just wondering where this one fits in. Teamwork. It does. It fits into teamwork.
Well, I mean, I can't say it's happened to me. You were telling me that if me and Tins aren't well, and Tins crapped himself.
I ain't hanging around for anybody.
No. The thing is, because once that happened, there's a story coming off the back. There's more.
But for me, that's the story. That's it. There, I left him at the point.
It's just going to get weirder and weirder.
Did he get a nickname like Poo Pant?
Yes.
Oh, he has got a nickname. What is
front row, second row, or back row?
No, the nickname's connected with his name, so it's
right.
Look, we're not here to bag people.
It's quite hard to segue on from this story.
You can segue out of it by saying, "Well, that was a great night." Obviously, post matches.
Yes.
Is there an England game that you would like to relive and play?
You'd have a million of those stories where you just think,
I don't know anyone who's shouting.
But you'd attach whatever stories come with that night to a game or to an event or to a tour, and it just makes the whole thing. Every time I think of that game, I get
you feel a bit sick.
I need a shit. Yeah. No, every time I think of that game, I just it attaches it to different. It's like when you listen to a song and you remind yourself, like it's just that whole piece.
So every time you walk past a public toilet, you go,
yeah, you go,
God,
European glory.
European glory. I love that. What about an England game you'd replay again?
I like that. Talking of red cards, I like that Argentina one where I think Daly got a red card. Red card, and that was like you dig in, you have a good bit of crack.
Apart from Daly,
who's on this,
Grand Slam.
One I'd play a game would be the World Cup final and hopefully win it. But like that 2016, You know, that whole tournament I thought was brilliant, and to finish it up in France was, you know,
I think that was definitely the most fun
Satisfying.
I've had. I mean, because the thing I was always jealous about with Sarries was that they looked after you on the field, looked after you off the field. You had a great collective. You were all a group of players that came together. And I know everyone always levels the stuff against you, but I don't believe that. I think the only people who could have felt aggrieved, as I've said on record, were Exeter, because when it comes down to finals, extra marginal talent on the bench stuff will make a difference. The rest of the league who you pumped, I've got no complaints. It does not make a difference because it's a team sport. If it had been like F1 and one team was allowed to invest in all the motors and engines and it was down to the most money, but the other one couldn't, that's why they brought a level playing field in. It doesn't actually make a difference, I don't think. But I wondered, was that time with England when Eddie Jones first came in your most fun that equaled kind of the Saracens kind of fun?
I think because we were also winning a good amount of trophies. I think we did the double that year at club level. So yeah, that was like, you look back and you think that was class. But then I don't like, I haven't finished my career last year and go, oh God, I wish I could have been in the 2016 days or replicated those. That, like, because you're having different memories. You know, in Japan, you've travelled the world. Like, I never thought, it'd be great if I could have had another year like that. You're just on a different journey. It all goes quite quick as well. You don't sit back often and go, whoa, like this is good.
I think you will do now though. Because and
I'd like to. I'd embrace that. But
I think as well, it's hard because when you're always on to the next thing, and I think I wouldn't say you're quite a humble guy. Always, you're not. You would never bracket yourself in the same thing as me. But when you next coming months, I think it'd be quite nice to sit back and go, wow. Japan, wow, premierships title. Because actually, you're right. Some of that stuff's gold dust. Some of the best players you've ever met have never won.
Yeah. I find that that's what I find.
Johnny Wilson
mad.
never won a premiership.
Yeah, he did. He won it in his second year. But it was the Courage League back then. It wasn't the grand final.
But if he hadn't gone to Toulon, he hadn't won anything. No. Spent all that time loyal to the premiership, didn't win anything.
Well, the issue there is that if that's your driver, you can just go find a team and take less money and fit into a team that is winning. Like, surely. If that's a driver.
Didn't know that. I would have joined Saracens.
But is that not?
I wouldn't have got in the team though, would I? Probably not.
No. You would have. But like, is that not a choice to change your sort of your priorities and try and find a club that is on the up? Like, I think you could join for less or whatever it is.
I think it is. I think what actually you miss more than anything is the memories. The only thing that I have that gets me is the sort of green-eyed monster every now and then when you see someone go, I'll get more caps, 100 caps, win another trophy. You're like, fuck, I really want that. Not in a bad way. It doesn't keep you up at night, but it's just that moments when you tune in and you see. You're like, I was really happy with my career. I couldn't have done more with it. But I'm always built to want more. And actually what you value now are the memories. So when I see you guys and we laugh about this time, that's what keeps you awake. But we're the only thing on earth that puts priority by numbers. Nothing else keeps priority with numbers. So we worry about caps, trophies, success, money, cash, all that stuff. That's what motivates. Nothing else in the natural world does that, I don't think. And so it's really important to us, and especially in our career, it's ingrained. If you don't get 50 caps, are you, if you don't get this, if you don't win that, what is it? It doesn't matter, because actually, if you have the memories, that's what matters. But I think it's a hard thing to unprogram yourself or deprogram yourself, I should say.
And that 50 cap thing, I've had so many people like, did you not want to hang around and get 50 cap? I was like, well, it's just 5 more than the it's like, would I prefer to have a load of other memories or take the risk to go have other memories? But that actually, when people were asking me, I was thinking, well, actually, would I like 50? I was like, well, who's it pleasing? Who is it pleasing?
I know, and I couldn't agree, because I haven't with the 100 thing. 75, I looked at it and I go, could I play more? Could I have gone to 2019 World Cup? What would it matter? And it is such a... it never gets any better. Your thirst is never quenched if you set yourself by those standards. Whereas, that's why I think we're so interested to talk to you, is because it is such a unique thing. Because let's be honest, I think if you went back now and wanted to play and you played well, I think with the England squad, the next World Cup would be 100% in your reach. I think Eddie Jones would bite your hand off, because I think you're a player that they don't have in the squad like you, and I think you could do that. But equally, I think it's brave enough to go and go, look, I built a business that you can obviously, Alex probably ask you about, that you want to stick and believe in, and actually you're happy. And if you can find contentment, that's the one thing about retirement, because I don't think there are a lot of people who are content. Like, I wouldn't say I'm content, which is probably why I do 4 fucking million things, trying to find the next kind of high.
Did you talk to Eddie about the decision to retire?
Yeah.
What was that conversation?
I don't know. You'd speak to him heaps, but he's the sort of person that will just always want to catch up at some point, and like regularly through. Obviously, he was in Japan, coaching a few bits with Centurion, doing those sort of consultancy bits. But yeah, like he's just an honest guy, isn't he? And
Did he say, if you're around, I want you back in the squad type thing, or not?
He just said, make sure it's the right. Make sure it's what you want. Because like you probably you don't get to do it over again and so on. So
unless you're Joe Marler, when actually you do.
Yeah,
he's retired 3 times.
Yeah.
And some guys you can retire and non-retire. Retirement now doesn't really mean retirement.
No.
Yeah.
It's not in the boxing world. It doesn't either.
Tyson Fury
retired.
Is he?
Not retired. Of course he'll
he's
come back.
retired until there's 100 million on the table.
Yeah.
Mayweather's retired. No more. He's had 3 more fights.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask you is about leaving Saracens, because obviously that was an amazing dynasty, which has had the challenges and the criticism that's received. But was it heartbreaking to leave Saracens? Did it just feel like, the right time to go? How did you make the decision to go to Japan, particularly when a lot of the others said, actually, we'll stay?
Yeah, tough one, because there was bits on the table. And I had made that decision. I know it conveniently works out, but I had made that decision. I'd spoken with Eddie heaps and Mark McCall, sort of when I was 27, 28, saying at 30, I will be moving on to something different.
Really?
So I'd made that sort of decision. So for me, it was tougher than seeing people, like them seeing them go through that. And also it made me go like, well, okay, I might pull out of what I was thinking of doing to then
help,
to then stick around for that. So, I think ultimately, like the fact that I was happy enough with the planning of that decision, that made it in my head. Like I didn't feel like I was jumping ship, when that sort of thing did happen.
Yeah. And how did Japan come about? I mean, I presume, did you look at France? Did you look at...
Yeah, looking at France, looking at... I wanted to do something different because, grew up south of London, lived north of London. That's like my whole life. So I was like, right, I want to do something different. And I think... For me, there was a couple of offers in France. I looking at them and I looked at them in good depth, but the bits in Japan, I was just like, especially off the back of the World Cup, I was like, this is just a mad place. Like, what an opportunity. So I think it coincided, and you never make decisions just for one reason. It's never just, is it cash, or it's never just your body or...
Well, I think a lot of people, weird enough, a lot of people do, and they come to regret it. You see a lot of people who sign over here or sign from other countries and they do it for cash, when actually... What's your price of living? What's your price of happiness? What's your price of rugby? Yeah. Is it rugby going to make you better? Are you going to have more journeys? And the sensible ones, because you only make that mistake once and go, like I swapped from Nike for Adidas for no other reason than I thought it was a bit more money and I thought it was going to be different when I should have stayed at Nike. I should have done that. It's the biggest regret I had around that time, because I was convinced, someone convinced me to do it, and I did it all for wrong reasons. Yeah. And I still think about it now and think, fuck's sake, what was I doing? And then could have
been Jordan, mate. Do you know what I mean? You could have invested in beats and
whatever. What are those?
Air Hask that actually got springs in it. You can't go off the ground.
Air Hask, Jesus. One flat tire.
Weighted diving boots they would be.
Yeah.
But no, you made it for a whole multitude of decisions.
Yeah, well, yeah. And when you actually start looking at, I guess maybe in that point of view, you start weighing up and almost putting a figure on, okay, well, what does spending more time with a family, what does being the opportunity to do business stuff, how does that mean to you? And I actually spent a lot of time with Andrea, the England psychologist, and just talking through those decisions more as like a business plan for myself in terms of like where does the importance sit? And then once you've made that decision, it's like I guess you don't have a regret because you've got facts based on. It's not like, you got 2 weeks to sign this contract for this. Like if you plan it early enough, and you got yourself a bit of like a self business plan or whatever it is, then you make it based off the right things.
That's so considered. Like I would be surprised at how many people do what you've done. Like do it that way.
There are so few. I mean, that's what's falling out of this conversation, is that you're kind of operating at a level whereby you're playing international rugby at the very highest level, you're winning silverware, and yet actually it seems a very natural decision to say, actually, that's been great, but I want to go and do something else.
I love the considered approach.
Yeah.
Talking to a therapist and go, or a person, and making a plan and making a decision, a list of priorities, instead of going, what we all do, what's going to pay this, where's going to do this, what's, actually going, what is it I value in life? What is it I enjoy in life? What is important to me? What's my next adventure? Putting it all down in black and white, actually taking the time to categorise it, going, I stick with it. And then you have no, it's like you said, you have no doubt. And it doesn't become you don't question yourself.
Yeah. And then, so like, it's good. It was a good practice. It took about 2 months to do, but, it was a good practice.
How did 4-5 come about?
So Dom Day,
2018
was injured. I also, in January and February, I also had to have an operation, 2018. And really, it just came back off the back of that. So we're looking at what other things you can do to recover. And Dom's always a little bit, he's always keeping an eye on different bits. And I guess took it, got good benefit out of it. But then off the back of that, it was kind of much like yourself. Like there wasn't really any good tested ones. There wasn't anything you could really, because obviously as tested athletes, you really need to know what's in the product. So essentially off the back of that, we thought there was a good opportunity, seeing the rise of it in sort of CBD in America and Canada, and I guess bought into it off the back of that, and now have a range of sort of like wellness products, so vitamins and so on. We're in Boots. We look like we're going into another couple of retailers. We're responsible for people, which is so weird.
Not a lot we know about.
No, it's just like I don't know the decisions you like. So we got like one-on-one meetings tomorrow based on bonuses or whatever's going to happen, like OKRs, all these sort of things where you're thinking, oh, this is so new to me, and that's what I'm finding pretty interesting. Like pitching someone like Boots is very different. Like I turned up, had a black eye and crutches going into a meeting room to pitch someone to put
I
your
presume you
products.
explained that rather than saying these are the side effects of the product.
Exactly.
To sell.
But,
so I mean, I'm fascinated in your job. How many people have you got in the business now?
We've got we're all in for the first time the other day. There's 9 of us.
Okay.
So
and where are you based? I mean, how does the business actually sort of function? Are you selling overseas? Is it just UK? Are you
UK? We're also in South Africa. So we've got Brian Abana sort of involved on that side.
Clever.
So that we're in Dischem over there, and we're going into it again. Hopefully, a couple more retailers. But mainly D2C and retail. It's just been a bit of a wild journey, really. Some good growth. We've got a really good group of investors who are very helpful, and it's just like for someone who hasn't. I did a business degree, but obviously we're just so heads down in rugby. To then have this other thing where I think the good thing is you just meet so many different people. Obviously, you get to meet people and interview them and all that side, but I think you meet so many people, and actually when you look at how small the rugby circle is and how small the amount of conversations you have, they're all about the same things. They're all like, but then when you go do something outside, it's, I don't know, that's the thing I found most interesting, just the ability to be able to talk to whoever you really want when we've got a background like this, which is obviously very grateful for.
A bit more balance as well to focus on your rugby, so you felt like it, so you knew that if rugby day wasn't going well or playing side was taking too much, you then could switch into this, and that would give you more balance.
I honestly do think so for the first couple of years. Last year, like it's been tough because there are commitments you gotta have on field, which I've always been paid to being a rugby player first, so I probably tilted it a bit too much last year. But yeah, definitely in the first couple of years to have an interest outside. Again, there's so many cliches around making yourself more rounded, all that sort of stuff. But the fact that you speak to multiple different people, you get a better idea of actually what other people are doing, what real life is like. Because otherwise, it is a shock, I'd imagine. People going straight into a 9 to 8 till 6 and just being like, this is wild.
Mm. You're doing 5 a.m. till 10 p.m. Are you on that train, or are you able to keep yourself in a sort of
I think
relatively normal vein?
We've done culture bits around making sure that especially with COVID, the whole sort of workplace from what I've seen seems to have changed in terms of people need more time, more headspace. They need probably a more rigid sort of schedule. But yeah, like you find something like I'm not going to email people outside of work hours.
Yeah.
I'm in Japan firing them off at whatever time they're picking up, and they're like, so you get that feedback pretty quickly, and
I've had the same
adapt
feedback.
To that sort of stuff.
We do.
You haven't changed much on that. And what did CBD do for you? Not necessarily your product, but what did CBD do for you over painkillers and rehab and perhaps the more sort of standard
Yeah.
route?
So I think when we've done surveys with our customers, the main three: anxiety, like recovery, so pain, and sleep. For me, definitely sleep. Like I'd have the product, and I do feel noticeably calmer off the back of it, and off the back of that, I'd have a better night's sleep.
Can you give Hask a ton and a half?
Yeah, you can drink the
preferably
thing.
yesterday. That's really interesting. And so, and your role in the business is?
Sort of network investors. I'm now that I'm back, a lot more face-to-face bits. So lots of event work we want to do. Sort of gym-based bits. Just linking up. Just getting more face-to-face. Like obviously with Dom predominantly in Dublin and myself being in Japan, it's like we haven't been able to do that side of it quite well, like the events and so on. And hence why I probably pushed a bit more into retail on that side. So hopefully we'll go like retail and then go back into a bit more D2C and run that route.
What does Dom do?
Dom does retail, sales, and comes up with just ridiculous ideas, which get shot down a lot of the time. Much like
you've got to have them to shoot down.
I know someone else who comes up with a lot of ideas.
All mine go through though, thankfully. Which bit of the job do you hate the most? Having gone from a life of coffees, bit of tackle bag, home by 3 for PlayStation. What is the thing now? You're like, God, I miss the old days.
I mean, the old days, like there is no pressure to do. I mean, obviously there's pressure to do rugby, but there's so many days off. You get 3 good days off. 2.5, 3 good days off, and it is mad. I say the old days, as in I've been retired a week. So,
yonder, years gone by.
But it's the biggest bugbear probably just having to be super organised. Otherwise, like you disappoint other people, or you mess up someone else's schedule if you haven't come back to them and this sort of thing. So, I think as rugby players, like we think, sending a letter on a day off is like the highest bit of admin you could possibly do, and you're like, oh God, I need a nap.
I need a coffee. I need a coffee break from the coffee break
with the boys. Because I've sent off a council tax email or something. So I guess just trying to switch the brain in terms of making sure I'm super organised in terms of how you structure your lists, all those sort of things are new to us. And I guess maybe in a business or someone who's come from uni, you'd go and you'd step load those, and you'd have someone above you who might be able to show you in the right direction and all sorts. So that's probably the biggest sort of step up, just being super organised so that you can be most effective.
How important was Saracens, which we've often said in the past are the best club at getting their team set up? How important were they in your journey? Brilliant.
And like they haven't invested, they haven't done all this sort of stuff, but they've invested their time.
They haven't.
4, 5 Saracens.
A shell company may or may not.
We had to change our name recently. But like brilliant in terms of the fact that they just got you up and doing something from, there was under 24, you'd have to be doing something, a degree or some sort of like trades course or something. And that sort of getting you to do something just gets you to do something. And then we're fairly competitive. We'll roll with it. You build into something else. But I think the idea of getting people out in the off day doing something was definitely back then pretty unusual. And then obviously off the back of this, like even the RPA as well, like they were super helpful. I think they introduced us to people who introduced us to getting into boots and so on. Like these things don't just come from nothing. I think you gotta be receptive to taking that on board. I think a lot of players are pretty lazy and not.
I think there are people to help, basically, aren't there? If you want it, they're there to help. Because people go, I can't really find resources. If you ask them, they'll help you.
Yeah, 100%. And I think both Saracens and I'd say RPR, I don't have a bad word to say about them.
This has been absolutely fascinating because I think it's the first time I've genuinely, having worked with you for 2.5 years, you'll understand why. It's the first time we've had someone on the pod who has just got everything under control. Yeah. And rugby is such a game of chaos, and it's injury and it's disappointment and it's elation, etc. And it just comes at you from everywhere. And a lot of the people we speak to have found it really difficult after rugby. It's so inspiring to sit and listen to someone who reached the top, achieved everything he wanted to, and knew when the right time was to go and on to something.
And being proactive.
Which is ready to go and take to another level.
But also, I should have known. I like I said, listening to you today, that's what I love about the podcast. You find out more about people. Because, I mean, we'd obviously always got on really well, but you would, like jokey conversations, you'd be saying, I can't jump, I'd be saying snoozer, sort your chat out, you put everyone to sleep. And it was sort of the limit of our conversation. But obviously, I know you built this
It was
business.
the CBD that was putting him on to sleep all this time.
But, Kruis has come up with some of the best nicknames: Beaker from Sesame Street, Snoozer. Like, there's tons that kept us going.
Legend.
No one ever said that. But
That fell through the gap.
But what I love is actually listening to him, the cerebral approach to all of it.
Yeah.
That having heard it firsthand, like none of it was reactionary. Everyone was thought out. There's a lot of peace and contentment there. I think the business is very exciting. If you look at the quality of the people that have invested in it, it's a very, very exciting thing, and everything seems under control. And it's right. You've got all this integrity, and you've got a plan. Obviously, in the world of injured players, there is always someone that has to come in as a medical joker. Is there a figure?
Everyone's got a figure.
If they put a big C in the sky, would you come back?
It wouldn't be a figure. I've been offered more now. Now I'm retiring.
Really?
Yeah. This is actually sickening. But
really?
Yeah.
And you've got the integrity to say no?
Well, I've just got an opportunity and there's something else I want to do.
Well, fine. Oh, fair play. I mean, you're a better man than I am.
What was the figure?
It was fuck off.
Still trying to get the germ.
Take it and invest it in the business.
I would come back if it was a medical joker and I thought there was a chance of winning a trophy in a club, which I thought I'd be able to create some good memories. But it would have to be a short enough stint. But I mean, also they've also got to want me. I might look like a.
How quickly could you get fit again if you had to? Were you someone that retained it or lost it?
I think a couple months maybe. I mean, obviously it'd take a lot more. You need games, so you need at least three or four games to get back.
Are you a bit smaller since the Japan days?
I'm 8 kg smaller.
Yeah, I was about to say not in a bad way, because there's nothing worse than another man going, you lost a bit. I don't mean like that, but I mean you just look leaner, you look good for it.
Yeah. I think it's like you just don't have to eat that much over there.
No. Was it all the running as well, like 2-hour training sessions?
Like we eat pasta, bread all over here, and they're eating like soba noodles and stuff like that, which is
or a little piece of fish, little segment of fish in a bowl. And you're like, have more of that? No, you're like, what? That was. What the fuck was that? Or miso soup. Like, can I have some? No. Well, I mean, what? That's 200 calories there.
Who'd have thought you'd be the poster boy for transitioning from rugby to?
No.
Yeah, I think we talk about it so much on this show, and you are the one person we've had on who has nailed it.
But I think I've set myself up in a good enough space. But you just we don't know what's going to happen with business. You don't know what's happening with the economy, all that sort of stuff. But yeah,
you're in as good a place as anybody could possibly be.
Yeah,
coming out of the game.
Yeah, I think the thing is I'm happy enough with what I've done is a big thing, because I think that can probably haunt you. And I don't think I will have that.
I love a man who's got it sorted. In 2022, where the world is melting all around us, it's really nice to sit down and chat with someone who says, actually, I've got my ducks in a row. And
also what a great, and it's never, most people who fit into that comfort zone then haven't had the career he's had.
Yeah.
More trophies, just medals, adventures, England's World Cup final.
This is really.
It's just like it's
good.
You're making me blush, lads.
No, but that's what I mean.
Great.
It's not just someone who's had like a mediocre career who's had to nose to the grindstone, had to battle it out. You've got someone who's done all that, and it's amazing.
Imagine his nose to the grindstone.
Jesus, you could do with your nose to the nose to the sander.
A couple of hours a day. I'll book in my schedule.
Honestly,
I'll get my PA to do it.
Kruis is the only person who had to put an Opro nose shield on in case he took someone's eye out in training.
A nose shield.
You may be a multi-billionaire in the making, but you still got Hask in your wing mirrors. It's an exhausting place to be. Good on you. Well done. Thank you for coming to see us. Will you keep in touch?
Thank you for having us on. Absolutely, yeah.
We'll watch the growth of
and where can people get the products?
They can get them on 45.com, spelt 45. Not the words.
You know our listenership well.
You can get them in Boots. I think there's a deal at the moment in Boots. But we'll put a code GBR20.
GBR20.
Yeah, we'll put that on the website for
the
lovely listeners.
If Hask gets inside your head and makes you feel anxious, we've now got a solution for you via 45.
If you don't want to listen to me, put the CBD on your ears.
Good on you, George. Go forth and conquer. Just before we finish this week, a few bits and bobs, as always, to tell you about. First of all, if you haven't seen it, it was really, really good fun to do. Rugby Players React with World Rugby. It's a new series in which rugby players react, surprisingly. It's out over the next few weeks. Tins and I sat down with rugby royalty Zinzan Brooke, Dan Bigger, and Sir Lawrence Dallaglio to rewatch some of the big World Cup games that they were involved in throughout their career, and also other games that they would have watched alongside most of you. We did that ahead of Wales taking on South Africa, so there are a couple of those to reflect on. New Zealand taking on Ireland this summer, of course, and England, who are in Australia. So those were the themes that we discussed. The Zinni one is out already. Go and check it out on our YouTube channel, and don't miss the Delalio and bigger ones over the coming weeks. We did have a lot of fun doing it, and hopefully we'll get through a few more next season as well. Good Scousen Rugby is back. 3 incredible athletes and entrepreneurs. The theme is growing. Joined Elmer on this week's Good Scousen Rugby. Emily's busy, obviously, moving house at the moment and then heading back into camp, so hopefully she's all right. Not a long off-season for her with the World Cup looming into view as well. So instead, we had the Worcester Warriors' Steph Evans, founder of the women's kit and apparel company Ruggett RFC. We had Harlequins' Emma Swords, who is the founder of the headwear company Bonsi, and Wasps' Flo Williams, who is the founder of the sports marketing company The Perception Agency, who are doing great things for women's sport, now working for Matter as well. They take the perception of the women's game to task. They also debate how important the right kit is, what it means to be an ally, and they all make a case for the marketability of the sport and the individuals within it. So that is a really good listen at the Good, the Scousen and Rugby. And a quick nod and a high five to the Red Roses, who are back in camp as well. Wasps scrum half Claudia MacDonald is in England's training squad less than a year after a serious neck injury. So well done to you, Claudia. Good to see you back. The 26-year-old was told the injury had probably ended her career. Not so. Great to see you back, Claudia. Go well to all of the Red Roses. Well done, George. Lovely to see you. Keep fighting the good fight. And do keep us posted on your progress as well. Hask, we'll probably be seeing you sooner rather than later. We have been The Good, the Bad and the Rugby. We will see you next week. This show is produced by Shara Kilgallen. The Good, the Bad and the Rugby is a Folding Pocket production. Look after yourselves.